Xbox, the unrivaled 2000s nostalgia merchant. A brand that promised so much with fruitless experiments and somehow managing to fall short on any persuading exclusives for 2 generations in a row. You know, if they just sold their consoles bundled with a packet of cheese Doritos, some Mountain Dew, and a copy of Halo 3 with a Linkin Park CD at the back, I guarantee you they would increase market share. Alas, this is not the case, nor is it the topic of today's discussion. How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing alright. For today's topic, it's a bit personal. Everyone's experience is going to be different, but for me, roughly 4 to 5 years ago, I managed to make a pretty difficult decision. I decided to purchase an Xbox Series X over a PlayStation 5. Now, in hindsight, I'm pretty sure everybody can say that that was a poor decision, given the current direction of the company, a bit of uncertainty, and most importantly, exclusives migrating over to PlayStation. But I want to emphasize that that decision was not so simple, nor is it too relevant to my case today, because I now own a PC. Let me start by presenting some of the reasons that I picked an Xbox in the first place, and you can determine whether or not I was crazy or if it was low-key valid. Firstly, I skipped a generation. I went from the Xbox 360 straight to, the Series X. This means I had no built-up digital library from the PS4 or the Xbox One. It was really a clean slate. I could choose anything. In that gap between, I mostly played on my laptop, and I played multiplayer games such as Heroes and Generals. I played a bit of Fortnite in 2018, of course. Other stuff like CSGO, Brawlhalla, all of these sorts of games with my friends. But one thing that I did miss in that time was story games, and it is something that I really wanted to get back into. And we must also remember that at the start of this generation, PlayStations were very difficult to get. It was near impossible. Now, obviously, this depends on where you live and your circumstances, but where I live, you really couldn't get a PS5 until about 2 years into the cycle. Whereas an Xbox Series X, well, those were on the shelves, those were everywhere. You could pick up one of those if you want, and over time, it just got tempting to get it. Another reason that I went with the Series X, Game Pass. Now, today I had a look at the PlayStation library and everything recently, I think it's PS Plus, and it looks like a very good deal. But 5 years ago, there was nothing like Game Pass. It really stood on its own as a subscription service. Of course, today the price of Game Pass has gone up, and I subscribe to it and I unsubscribe to it, and it's feeling wishy-washy as to whether or not you can actually get value out of it. I'll give you an example. I played Avowed on Xbox Game Pass for exactly 1 month. I subscribed, made sure I finished the game in 1 month, and unsubscribed. Because if I paid 2 months of Game Pass, I may as well have just bought the game outright. Next up, and this is kind of a continuing factor, is that there was lots of talk and promise of more PC-like adoption for Xbox. Now, of course, this is all ramping up massively again for the next generation of console, and you have handhelds with the Xbox ROG LIX, stupid name, but that's kind of an Xbox, but it's not, because you can't play Xbox games, and it has all the drawbacks of Windows still on it. But if the rumors are to be believed for this next generation Xbox, this high-end system that could run Steam and other PC storefronts, then it's looking more like what I was picturing in my head when I first went with the Series X. And really, it was just a combination of all these factors that made me go for it. So now, to tackle the question, do I regret choosing an Xbox? I don't know. On the one hand, I own a PC. So aside from Halo 5, I can basically play every single game that's on an Xbox, on my PC, and at the moment, I pretty much choose to do so just because it looks so much better. And it was looking good for a period of time when PlayStation was starting to migrate some of their exclusive titles to the PC platform. You just had to wait a little bit. However, now PlayStation's going, nah, I don't think so. So it's making me have to look at the PS5 again, or possibly the PS6 in a few years' time, and think, well, if I want to play the new God of War or The Last of Us Part 2 Remaster Part 6, then I might have to consider getting a PlayStation, which would kind of be a pain and something I honestly would not do to play just a few titles. But now imagine I had a PS5 and my PC, and all of a sudden I don't have to worry about that anymore. Makes me think, yes, I do regret it. I do regret not having these PlayStation titles. But I will always be grateful to my Xbox Series X for exposing me to so many franchises that I love, especially with backwards compatibility. Assassin's Creed, AC1. I'm not sure if it's changed now, but at the time that wasn't available on the PS5. AC1 you can play on the Series X. I know that for a fact because I did it because of backwards compatibility with so many 360 titles. Playing through Halo, well, the Master Chief Collection. Fell in love with that series. And so many more just because of backwards compatibility and a lot of it being on Game Pass. So then I look at it and I say, no, this is my journey. The Series X made me fall in love with single player games again. It made me realize that there's so many old games that I love, and it's exposed me to franchises that I love, and it convinced me in a way to build my PC, which I've got a lot of value out of. Unfortunately, too much of that value is playing League and Valorant. Wish I could take that back. But at the end of the day, I love it. I don't regret it. And to be honest, if I went back in time, would I do it all over again? Yes. I'm itching to do it again. But if someone came to me today and said, should I get a PlayStation or should I get an Xbox? Now that is a very personal question because I don't know you. But I do know my friend who in the past 2 weeks came to me and said, should I get a PlayStation or Xbox? Was there a discussion? We went over Game Pass. We went over PS Plus. We went over what kind of games he wants to play. We went over how much time he has to play, whether or not these subscription services are even worth his money if he doesn't get to play the games. Now for him, he wanted to play FC26 with me. Now I suck at FC26. But it's my friend. I'm down to play with him. I bought the game on PC because I made this mistake buying it on Xbox before and then having to pay monthly just to play it online. That was stupid of me. Didn't make the same mistake twice. But he's also a huge history buff. So with his online subscription that he has to have to play FC26, he gets Ubisoft Plus Classics. He can play through the whole AC series. Brilliant. So for any new people, I'd probably be recommending a PlayStation. I'm not going to lie. I think with the current trajectory of the two brands, whereas Xbox is going more high-end, PC-like, well, not quite yet. We still have to wait for these new consoles. As PlayStation's going, okay, we're going to reinforce our walls that we used to have. We tried sending games to PC. We're worried it's going to affect our market share because we want to own the platform that people buy games on. Not just our games, but everybody's games, because obviously they get a higher cut that way. Then we look at it and we say, PlayStation might be the better move. But if Xbox does come out, and it does have Steam, and it does have Epic, and it does have GOG, and it does have this, and it does have that, and you can run emulators on it, if it does turn into Windows that's just not crap, that's a big factor too. If it's not a crappy Windows adaptation, then I'd lean towards Xbox. But until then, today, you want to buy a console today, honestly, it might be more difficult than ever to make a decision, especially with the rising cost of everything. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know, what are your thoughts? If you bought an Xbox Series X, do you regret it? And if you were to buy a console today, which way would you lean and for what reason? But most importantly, have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next video.